Hey guys, Marsengan here, bringing you another Dragon Ball Z Dokkan battle video. And so, with Baby being officially announced as the upcoming Dokkan Festival that will release in the next few days, not really to the surprise of anyone, right? I think this is one of those times where they posted a hint that I feel like most people probably just guessed straight away exactly what it was going to be. So no real surprise that it is Baby. But the great thing about this is that now that we know who the Dokkan Fest is going to be, this now gives us the opportunity to talk about and speculate what EZAs or Super EZAs we will potentially see during this celebration. Because obviously we know that whilst Dokkan does stick to a certain kind of order in terms of the units that will be getting these upgrades, we have seen before that they will skip over characters even by like months and months worth in terms of the release schedule if those characters match up to the theme of the celebration. So given that, I have taken a look through very quickly at some of the Dokkan Fests and LRs from the categories that Baby leads, which is of course Battle of Fate and Corroded Body and Mind, to try and pick out some of the characters that would be very good to get EZAs in order to maximize the efficiency of his team. Because I said in the breakdown video that I made, my one sort of, I don't want to say criticism, but I guess like thing that makes me a little bit hesitant about Baby's team is obviously the part of his passive that requires like a full Corroded Body and Mind rotation, but there's not a lot of great Corroded Body and Mind characters. There are some, obviously thanks to like the GDC we have the STR Rose. There's a couple of different things that could be very good for that setup, but I feel like his team, in terms of whether his team will be a contender as one of the better teams in the meta, is very much going to rely on some of these EZAs. So obviously let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. Who do you think will EZA as part of this celebration? What do you think of the picks that I have selected? Do let me know all of that stuff down below in the comment section, and of course make sure you do hit like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you are not already. I know people have been telling me YouTube has been being weird recently, and again people have been like unsubscribed and stuff like that, so make sure you double check. And anyway, we will go ahead and jump in. So considering that this guy didn't get an EZA during the Global Dokkan campaign, even though we had a GT bosses theme set up with Omega having the Inhuman Deeds as part of his leader skill and everything, which all would have included this guy on Omega's like full team. Very surprised that Super Tech LR Super 17 did not get his EZA during the Global Dokkan campaign, but now it makes a lot of sense for him to get his EZA now, because obviously he is a character that, whilst not on Corroded Body and Mind, he is on Battle of Fate, and then obviously he is on GT bosses, so he will be on the full 220 leader skill for Baby. And as we've seen from Baby's kit, like he very much is not a slot 1 unit, whereas this guy, depending on how good his EZA is, because of course his we know that this guy on release was just generally very disappointing, but if his EZA is good, he definitely has the potential to be a solid slot 1 unit, right? He just has basic stats. Now he gets buffs per Android or target Goku ally on the team, which is not ideal, but Baby is in target Goku at least. But this is something that obviously can be updated with his EZA. I feel like this is something where they need to just either add in an extra category, or like realistically the best case scenario for him is just changing it to being extreme allies. And then obviously he could still get an extra buff from androids or target Goku, but just add in like extreme allies as well. And then after receiving an attack, this should very much become when receiving an attack, right? So he could be one of those characters that gets the buff immediately as soon as he gets hit, but giving him damage reduction. But this is what's so crazy, for 3 turns after the end of the turn. I think when he came out, this is another one of the reasons why he was so disappointing. So he gets hit potentially multiple times on his first turn, and then you get damage reduction the next turn, like for 3 turns. Not straight away, like when he actually gets hit, which, you know, would be useful, but he doesn't get it until the next turn. So this very easily could be changed to when receiving an attack, extra attack and damage reduction for 3 turns. None of this after the end of the turn malarkey, right? I think he would be good to have some base damage reduction, and then, yeah, after he takes a hit, give him extra damage reduction for 3 turns. I think that would be fine. I mean, to be honest, with his damage reduction, if it was when taking a hit, it doesn't really matter whether he has some start of turn and then some when taking a hit, because when taking a hit procs as soon as he gets hit for the first time anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Like, he doesn't need it in his passive and when receiving a hit. It could all be when receiving a hit. It doesn't really matter. Or just his base passive anyway. Obviously, they put the 17s in there because it is Super 17. But obviously, we want an actual decent number for the damage reduction. Minimum of at least 50%, right? And then for every attack received, this is the other crazy thing. This guy having a high chance to get an extra key. Which I think is one of the very few units, even when he came out, that only had a chance to get extra key. So obviously, again, that should be upgraded to just being guaranteed he gets extra key. But his kit, as you can see, it is pretty bare bones. Like, he could absolutely have a whole bunch of different stuff thrown into here that would make him significantly better. So I feel like this guy is almost a shoe-in to get an EZA. Now, the one thing that somebody did mention in the chat is the fact that because he's an LR, we might not necessarily get an LR EZA straight away in part 1 with the release of a TUR, but remember that this celebration should also have a part 2 LR, yellow coin LR banner, so this guy could get an EZA in part 2 and just be featured on the part 2 LR banner. Now, obviously, when it comes to Super 17, we are now into that sort of period with the start of the GDC and them giving us the Super Saiyan 4s. We have now received Super EZAs for 2 of the 120 leaders, which means that the Super EZA for Super 17 is definitely not like an impossibility, right? They've already EZA'd 2 of the other 120 leaders, and then for all the same reasons why the LR getting an EZA is good, right? This guy is on Battle of Fate and GT bosses. This guy ended up, crazily enough, like super underrated on release, ended up being like the best aging 120 lead, and so this guy getting a Super EZA would be really good. He has the damage reduction, he builds up defense as he receives attacks. He also gives target Goku allies extra crit chance, which will be kind of funny because obviously the baby is on target Goku. I'm not sure if the Trunks, I didn't double check, I don't think the Tuffle possessed Saiyans are on target Goku. They get mission execution, but either way, this guy would be buffing baby's critical chance. Imagine if they made this like damage reduction and crit chance 17%. Like, that could be crazy. But yeah, give him base damage reduction, maybe like 60. He does build up to 30%, so to be fair, he goes up to 70. So maybe his base could be like 50 and he goes up to 80. Give him defense with each attack received as well. And then this guy could end up being another really, really good slot 1 tank option for the baby team. Because baby is not a slot 1 unit. So his team getting some really, really good slot 1s is definitely something that will be very, very beneficial to how his team operates, right? So definitely want to see that. And this guy getting a Super EZA would obviously be a big contributing factor to that team being good as well. So then we got some interesting ones here, right? So Int Majin Vegeta is the Saiyan Day unit from 2022. He is the next Saiyan Day unit in line to get an EZA. And obviously, you know, a lot of people are really excited for the potential of the physical God Goku EZA. But of course, like, he won't EZA until this guy has EZA'd at least, right? Because he came out the year after him. Now, this guy's EZA, he's in line for it to happen potentially any time. But the thing that's very interesting about this is you don't really think of like Majin Vegeta when you think of like a baby celebration or anything. He's not GT related. Obviously, baby is technically Vegeta, so that is kind of relevant in that sense. But the big thing that somebody pointed out in chat was very, very interesting about this is that this Majin Vegeta, to get his entrance animation, you need an ally on the team whose name includes Trunks. But one of the things that it doesn't have is, like a lot of these other characters with some of their passives, like especially when it's a Goku, it'll have that caveat where it says like Junior or Kid or Ginyu, like not included. Whereas this one doesn't say that. So any unit whose name includes Trunks will activate the entrance animation for this Int Majin Vegeta. And who is the banner unit for the new baby? That's right, the GT possessed Trunks. So that actually lines up perfectly, because if this guy gets an EZA, not only is he obviously on Corroded Body of Mind, but he's also on Final Trump card because of the final explosion. So he will be on the full 220 lead for Baby, and the GT possessed Trunks can be the Trunks on the team in order for him to get his intro. Now, obviously, when he gets an EZA, they can change the intro requirement, right? So it wouldn't have to necessarily just be a Trunks. They could also update it, because that obviously works for this Baby setup, but for other teams that he's on, adding in some other thing like a specific category, whether it's Vegeta Family or Majin Buu Saga or something, would obviously give him a lot more flexibility for being used on other teams. But yeah, when it comes to this celebration specifically, I feel like it makes sense for him to get an EZA, because not only does he fit on the lead, his EZA is in line to happen soon anyway, but yeah, the GT possessed Trunks actually activates his entrance animation requirement. So if terms of like, if we're getting a Dokkan Fest TUR getting their EZA in this celebration, I feel like Majin Vegeta is like a super high chance. In fact, probably the most likely, because there's very few Dokkan Fest TURs when it comes to Battle of Fate and Corroded Body of Mind that don't have their EZAs yet, unless they're like very new, because another one is like Physical Rose, but I didn't bring him up for this video because it's way too soon for him to get an EZA, right? So I think Majin Vegeta is actually a really good choice. And along those same lines, obviously there is the LR Majin Vegeta. We've already had the Int Gohan and the STR Broly now from that original batch of LRs get their Super EZA. So AGL Majin Vegeta could get his Super EZA, and of course he is on all the same categories as well. Now for him it's a little bit more awkward because of the way they did his passive, but a Super EZA obviously completely, they just can rewrite his passive entirely. Now, obviously, again, they could change this, so it's like when there's an ally whose name includes Trunks on the team, which would be significantly better for other teams, Trunks and Vegeta, like the LR, and then obviously the Baby Possessed Trunks for this team, for the new Dokkan Fest Baby. The one with the ally whose name includes Bulma, I mean, there's not much they can do about that. It's just like a little bit of an extra bonus. The key thing is they just need to make it so the rest of his passive is good enough that even if you don't have a Bulma or a Trunks on the team, then he's actually still good, which I guess is the problem, right? That's what they need to do for a Super EZA for this guy. He also would need to get, as part of his passive, a lot of defense like on Super, because Super EZAs can't change your super attack effects, and none of his super attack effects give him defense. So that's something that they would have to improve straight away. So this guy, his Super EZA definitely could be shaky, could be questionable, but would be kind of interesting. I think out of the two, it's probably more likely that we get this one. And more beneficial, I think, overall, but I do think this is a possibility. So then we've got some other ones that I think are maybe not as likely but kind of fit in a little bit. I know we're all waiting for the Cooler Worldwide Celebration EZAs, and of course Metal Cooler is on Corroded Body of Mind and then is on Terrifying Conquerors in order for him to be on the full 220 lead for the new Baby. So that is obviously something that factors in. The only thing is, of course, the STR Final Form Cooler and then both the Super Class, the Bird Coup and the AGL Super Saiyans, they're completely unrelated, not on Baby's team. So I'm still kind of sticking with my theory that these guys won't EZA either until the anniversary or maybe like New Year if they decide to do, because there's a lot of people speculating about, obviously there was that one time they did the superhero Gohan and Piccolo where they actually gave us LRs for the New Year Dual Dokkan Fest, and so a lot of people think that that could potentially be a thing that happens for Daima finally coming to the game if it isn't just going to be anniversary, which is kind of what I suspect. I feel like they are just waiting for the anniversary now for Daima, but yeah, if we get something crazy like that where New Year's is a Dual Dokkan Fest of actual LRs, then I could potentially see these guys getting an EZA then, but otherwise I feel like it probably won't be until the anniversary. But Metal Cooler will fit on Baby's team, so I mean Baby seems good enough that unless the anniversary has another insane power creep spike, Baby should still be usable, we would hope. And then this guy getting an EZA during the anniversary means he'll just be another really strong addition to that team. Then we also have this Janemba. Now, we already mentioned like 120 leads are getting their super EZAs now. So Janemba could be an interesting choice. He is, of course, on Corroded Body of Mind. Unfortunately, though, he's not on any of the other categories that are part of Baby's secondary part of his leader skill. So any Janembas will only be on the 170 lead for the new Dokkan Fest Baby, which isn't necessarily the end of the world, but obviously nowadays with the difficulty of events, the most optimal team setups are, you know, using full 200 or 220 lead characters on the team. But if this guy gets a good Super EZA, then obviously he could still be very good. The Int Janemba Super EZA was a little bit hit or miss. For me personally, when I did my tier lists and stuff, I feel like he was overrated by some people. Like the number of difficult events I went into and he just didn't dodge and I died was kind of annoying. So this guy has potential, but it's kind of just the Janemba thing for like Janemba units where he probably will just be largely dodge related, even if he gets extra defense and stuff like that. Because this guy gets extra dodge with each time he dodges. So you would think they're probably not going to start him off at like great chance to dodge, and then immediately that's increasing every time he dodges, because he would essentially almost be untouchable. I could see him being like 50% chance to dodge, and then every time he dodges he gets an extra 10%. But that could still be kind of risky, because high chance to dodge is just a coin flip at the end of the day. So when it comes to the really difficult events, you are taking the risk of him being like a dodge or die character in slot 1. But he could certainly be interesting. Like his EZA definitely, or Super EZA definitely could be good, and could be helpful for this team if he does become a very solid slot 1 tank. It's just the fact that obviously he will only be getting the 170 lead, which may hurt how good he potentially would be as a slot 1 for Baby's team. But definitely an option. Another one that could be interesting, another 120 lead, is the Int Kid Buu, because obviously Kid Buu is on Battle of Fate. And then when it comes to the extra categories, I don't think he is on any of the... Yeah, no, he's not on Final Trump Card, he's not on GT Bosses, he's not on Terrifying Conquerors. So again, he would only be a 170 lead. And this guy, he was always kind of interesting, but like, you know, when HP is 70% or more, he's supporting extreme class allies. They did give in the, when they were doing the first lot of Super EZAs, they added on support to a lot of those characters. So this guy could very much be giving extreme class allies key and actual stats as support as well, which would obviously be very helpful. But yeah, I mean, this guy, I feel like he doesn't fit the theme anywhere near as much as some of the other characters. The only tie-in is that he's on Battle of Fate and is an extreme class character. So other than that, he doesn't fit in super well. And then the same thing goes for the STR Cell, because obviously we're getting the super EZAs for these guys that were originally the type 100% leads. These guys were obviously the leader skill meta before the 120 leaders. So we could definitely see this guy's Super EZA. But again, the only tie-in is that he's on Battle of Fate. And then if we look at his categories, he's not on Final Trump Card, he's not on GT Bosses, obviously, and he's not on Terrifying Conquerors. So yeah, again, Cell is not a character that would be on the full 220 lead for Baby. Now, he could be interesting. Against multiple enemies, he debuffs the enemy's attack, which, funnily enough, is actually useful for, like, the Zamasu and Rose fight. But as you can see, even with his EZA, his kit is just very, very basic. So a Super EZA could certainly make him interesting. But again, he's kind of just loosely tied to this setup because he's on Battle of Fate. So I think the most likely EZAs that we'll see during this celebration, whether it's in part 1 or part 2, is going to be the LR Super 17 and then the Int Majin Vegeta. This guy definitely has potential for a Super EZA, and same with this guy, but I feel like the other options... It's funny because for the Majin Vegeta, I think the TUR is more likely than the LR. And then for the Super 17, I think the LR is more likely than the TUR in terms of which one is going to get an EZA. Because both of these guys need their base EZA, let alone a Super EZA. And then if they are going to drop a Super EZA in the celebration, maybe something like this guy could be pretty decent. Because we just had a big celebration that buffed like the movie bosses team, so this guy would be useful for that as well. The only other thing I wanted to mention that I think we could finally see, that we're now actually getting a Dokkan Fest Baby, maybe they'll revamp the story events that these characters come from, and we'll finally get awakenings, TUR awakenings for these guys, because we do have the Possessed Saiyan, Hybrid Saiyan versions of Gohan, Goten, and Trunks. Obviously, Trunks is getting a new banner unit, so this does mean that he has a farmable super attack. But yeah, these guys were just literally one typing, so like their typing, allies key 3 and defense 30%. These guys could very easily just get an awakening and have their passive be them providing either extreme class allies or corroded body and mind or something like that with attack and defense. And then just make each one do something a little bit different, right? Like they did with the free-to-play Rosé clones or the metal coolers or anything like that. You know, one of them could be giving extra support, one of them could be doing extra damage, the other one could be a more defensive unit, maybe like the AGL. I think it's both the metal cooler and the Rosé clones. The AGL one is like the dodge focused one. So they could do that where they make one of these guys like a more defensive unit but based around dodge. But yeah, these 3 guys getting awakenings would be very cool. It also means we would get new art for them as well, which would be quite interesting. But yeah, these 3 guys getting awakenings would be cool because they have just been stuck as SSRs that you can get to UR for years. They came out in 2017. So these units are 8 years old and have just been left as SSRs. So let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. Do you think we'll see the awakenings for these guys? Who do you think is the most likely EZA for this celebration? I'm definitely locking in my picks as most likely to be Martian Vegeta for the Dokkan Fest and the LR Super 17 for an LR EZA. But let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. So that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been the Masked Ningen. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Check out the links down below, and I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.